Welcome, viewers. This is A Vision Media Broadcast once again. We are here with a special guest. This man is Mr. Omar Tyree. He's the book author of Fly Girl, 1993, Battle Zone, 1994, A Do Right Man, 1997, and many others. Also, he has a new book coming out called Control, which is May 21st. That's the newest book. And I know it's going to be fire and a banger. Control. That's coming out next. We have the man, Omar Tyree, the author, the journalist, the poet, the screenwriter, the songwriter, the playwright, the host, Mr. Omar Tyree. How you feeling today, brother?
Yeah, man, I'm out here at Fairmount Park back home in Philly, for a visit for the weekend. So, it's good to be out here at the park where I grew up in West Philly. We used to come out here to Kelly's swimming pool and, jump off the little balcony thing. Then we see all the Parkside kids because I was from the bottom. So we had to come up from the zoo area and then come up here. So I'm at the Fairmount Park right now on the West Philly side. And it's a beautiful day, man. Lovely day.
So you came back to your hometown, man, but you're from Philly, but you moved away and you come back to your hometown, man. Tell me about the visit. Does it still look the same to you?
Well, this move away thing, I didn't really move away. I don't live home, but I'm always back in Philly. It ain't no
That's,
move away. It
yeah,
ain't like, yeah,
yeah,
because when you say that, that makes it sound like I left Philly as a teenager or something. No, I'm 1000% Philadelphian. You know what I mean?
exactly.
You get older, you might move away, but I didn't go away. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, but I'm back home visiting family and friends, and then taking care of some business. So it's always
Yeah,
going to be home. I always come back home. It's never like I'm going to forget about Philadelphia. That's the place that, turned me into the person that I am.
what you want? Yeah,
So I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been down there for 23 years, but I always come back home. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
my family has been down there. We've been up and back and forth. But yeah, Charlotte is beautiful, man. I love the city, but home is home. So I'm here in Philadelphia at
Right.
Fairmount Park right now.
That's right. What have you been doing since you've been back? Did you go get some, our famous steaks that we always grab? What you been doing?
Well, I usually get a stromboli, you know what I mean, with the steak in it. But this time I just got turkey, what's that? Turkey meatloaf, and I
The
got
turkey
some
meatloaf.
greens. I got some soul food up on the Germantown Avenue side, you know what I mean? Germantown, Shelton,
Yeah,
So I was hanging out up there last night. So I didn't get a cheesesteak this time around. You ain't got to do it every time. But I
yeah, yeah,
had the
yeah.
pretzel. I had the pretzel with the hot mustard from Wawa's, you know what I mean? I always do
That's
that
right.
too. And then you get the lemon pie from Tasty Cake, stuff that you can only get back at home. So I
That's
always do that.
right.
But I didn't get no steak this time around, no.
Wow. So why are you back? I know you mentioned a lot of business talking and business meetings. Can you share with the viewers why you're back here and what's going on with you now?
Well, yeah, I got the opening of the book Control, and we're gonna be at the library on the 24th, which is a Friday of May. May
Yeah.
24th, the library, 7 p.m. That's the Main Street Library, Vine Street, 19th. So we got what 500 seats in there. We trying to make it historical. I'm gonna be dressed to impress. We trying to make sure everybody know to come out Friday night, the 24th of May, back home at the main library, 19th and Vine, with the big auditorium. So I got that
Wow.
already set up. It's just a home visit, man. I had some things to do at home, and I'm gonna take care of all of them. About 6 to 7 things, including your interview. We wanted to get that done, so
That's
we're
right.
here to make it all happen.
That's right. That's right. You mentioned the library, man. We was going down there as kids. We used
Yeah,
to go back and forth down the library, man. That's a good
yeah,
thing, though. And you will have a great turnout.
get
You know
good.
what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I look forward to it.
yeah, most definitely, man. New York's Times best-selling author. Can you take me back to the NAACP when you have the Image Awards? Take me back to that moment, man.
Well, to get the end, the New York Times bestsellers list, everybody was in love with the Philadelphia classic Fly Girl, where I
Like,
wrote about the 1980s, you know what I mean, in Philadelphia.
right,
And so I knew that book would sell in a sequel. So I came up with a sequel I did for the love of money because I knew I was going to make some money. You do a sequel to a book that everybody loved in the first place. So I knew I was going to make some money, but I wanted to teach the readers a lesson too, because the character had to grow up and get some maturity culturally, educationally, intellectually, socially, spiritually. So
yeah,
I had to grow the character up. She's not the same teenager anymore. She went to college. She got out of college. She got a master's
yeah,
degree. and she got to establish her life on the next level. You can't just be in the hood, like you're a teenager. So
That's
I
right.
had to tell the audience, look, she grew up, she gonna do some other things. And the book really took off, man. It hit, and we sold 50,000 copies in the first couple of weeks. It hit the New York Times bestsellers list. They ran out of books, so they had to do a rush print job. And then we lost some sales in that because sometimes
Wow.
when you don't have the product ready, they start borrowing other people's books. And so I lost some sales off of that, but the
Wow.
momentum was already there. And we end up winning the NAACP Image Award off of that book. And I didn't know I was going to win the award. So I was out there with all the NAACP people with suit and tie and all that. And I'm
Yeah,
passing out flyers. I had flyers for my next book because I always do them flyers. You got the party flyers that you always do. So
that's
I
right.
had party
That's right.
flyers that I was
That's right.
passing out for the book Just Say No at the daggone NAACP Image Award. Everybody in tuxedos and suits, and I'm passing out flyers. And it was like, what the heck are you doing? I'm like, I'm getting prepared for the marketing of my next book because I know I'm not going to win. It's like a popularity contest with awards and stuff. So when they announced my name, it blew me away, man. And I went right up there and started preaching. I started saying that, when you singing and dancing, you get awards all the time. But
That's
when
right.
you writing books for black people and you trying to get them to read, boy, it's the hardest job in the
It's
world.
hard.
And
It's
I'm in the
hard.
trenches doing it. So I said that in front of everybody, man. They were like, dude, it's really good. But I'm a Philadelphian, so I'm going to say what I got to say whenever I got to say it. So I'm not going to back down from what I need to say when I'm on that platform. And that's what I did. You know what I mean? Went up there with the trophy and gave them a lecture on how hard it is to be an intellectual about the right thing for black people when, we celebrate so much of the entertainment all the time. But at the same time, I like movies, I like dancing, I like music. But we just got to make sure we award people for the cultural stuff, the political stuff, the academic stuff that we're doing as well. And we don't do enough of that.
That's right. You're doing a wonderful work, man.
Yeah.
You are. And like I said, the book Control is also coming out too, which we know is going to be a smash. Another one. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Can you just give us a quick synopsis on Control? What is it about?
Yeah, Control, I have a psychologist from Camden, New Jersey, right across the bridge from us. So, of course, she talks about Philadelphia because
Yeah.
Camden always going to tell. They get the radio station, they got everything we're doing, the
That's right.
Eagles and all that. So
Right.
she's from Camden. She goes down to Atlanta to go to school with Clark Atlanta, and then she studies psychology. She gets a master's degree in Georgia Tech, and
Yeah.
then you start dealing with all the people in Atlanta. And Atlanta has a whole lot of people right now because it's like the new Hollywood, black Hollywood. It's like the new black Motown, and you got people down there buying up real estate. So you got a whole lot of black people in Atlanta, man, who doing big things. So they got
Yeah.
big egos and stuff, and that creates a lot of control issues when you want to control more of your life, when you can't control more of your life. And so she specializes with individuals who have control issues, but she has control issues too. And so I got a whole lot of great characters with control issues. I got the rappers, I got the actors, I got the directors, I got the regular business people, and they all have control issues because that's what's going on now. As more people get individual power, you start wanting more and more of it. But in reality, you're not going to control everything. You got nobody control, and that's what spazzes Kanye West out all the time. Kanye wants to be able to do whatever he wants, and the world doesn't work that way. When Kanye says some of the things that he says, people respond to it, and it may be negative the way they respond to it because they may not like what he's saying. And so we had a dude that went from billions of dollars, and he lost about half of it from running his mouth because he can't control his own mouth. So I got a lot of that in the book. The Control is a lot of fabulous articles or stories in there with characters, but it's all with one woman trying to negotiate how they can control themselves and have more of I guess like a regularity of the issues that they have with control, lack of it, or having too much of it. And that really starts with the cell phone. If you think about it, if you give a child a cell phone at 8 years old and then they go to 18, they had control of that phone for 10 years. And that will create an issue. This is mine. This is my numbers. This is my social media. This is my privacy. This is none of your business. And that creates, so we all have control issues. It's just what degree do you have a control issue in? So it's a very relatable topic, and it's a very well executed book. And it's a movie I did. It's an automatic movie I did with 7 main characters who are intertwined in the world that have control issues. And then I got a surprise ending that I can't tell anybody. So if you read the book, you can't tell nobody the ending because you don't want to mess it up for the other readers. Right on.
That's how did you come up with that? You know, were you just sitting at home like with control? How did you come up with that whole concept?
Well, I have control issues right now. Everybody knows that Fly Girl should have been a movie years ago. But when you go out to Hollywood and they got the money and it costs a lot of money to create films the way you need to. So
Yeah,
you got a lot of people that want to do a cheap Fly Girl just to make a cheap dollar. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that because it's going to
right,
come back on me when the audience is like, why you let them do that to the Fly Girl? So I'm like, nah, so you got
right,
to protect it. And then when you try to protect it, you end up clashing with the money people because they don't want to put out the money that you need to make it, correct. So when you talk about a movie like Black Panther, you can't do Black Panther with low money because they got all that technology and the visual
yeah,
stuff. And all. The
yeah,
Black Panther costs a lot of money. So you can't do it with cheap money. And so that's one of the things that I've been dealing with the whole control issue. When you don't have enough to do the next thing you need to do, now you got to talk to other people who want to control your project. And
right.
I can't let you control it because you don't understand it artistically. You may have the money, but I'm the one that understands it. And so you have to work with me and negotiate. And when you in a control battle, the business people don't want to negotiate, the art person don't want to negotiate, and so nothing happens. And so I'm in that personal struggle with myself, understanding that I might have to raise my own money so I can have the control to do the project the way it has to be done. And
That's right.
Spike Lee had to get that control.
That's
Tyler
right.
Perry had to get that control. Ryan Coogler had to get that control. What's the other? Will Packer had to get
Go
that
back.
control.
Yeah,
If you don't control what you're trying to do, it's going to end up being a headache because then you have to explain to other people why you couldn't do it X way. And I'm not that kind of personality. I'm not going to be in front of you making up excuses. I can't do it, dude. So if it takes forever to make that book, or if it never gets done because I can't have the control, that's something you have to eat because I know on the flip side of it, if you do it incorrectly, you may not only get one chance to do it. And so I'm like, nah, I got to do it right. So hopefully I can go ahead and get in position. I'm trying to put myself in position now, but you have to do some smaller movies first so you
that's
can
right.
get the control that you need to do the bigger movies. And that's what I'm working on now. Do the smaller movies. That don't mean it's not going to be a good movie. It's
Yeah,
just not going to be as big as the bigger projects I have because I got a lot of big ideas. Okay, so that's what it is. The control thing. I had control issues of my own. Everybody got control issues.
that's
And
right.
so we got to deal with it. And I wanted to put that in the book because that's what everybody's dealing with in America right now.
Well, how do you go about getting funding? Do you actually go to these corporations to get funding, or you just try to do it out of pocket?
Yeah, you don't go to corporations because they may not be in the filmmaking. You got to go after people who already fund films. But when you do that, they're going to have a list of what you're doing, who's going to be in the movie, how they're going to get their money back, how
Okay.
you're going to market. And then after you do all that, they still have to decide, is this movie really going to work or not? Now,
Wow.
everybody that read the book Fly Girl, we know it's going to work or not. Here's the problem with financial people. They don't read your stuff. So
That's right.
they're going to ask other people, you really think? But at the end of the day, they don't know the content, right? And so
Wow.
now, if
Wow.
they don't know the content, they don't have the confidence in what you're doing. And so now it takes a lot of negotiations of middlemen where you got to have what they call closers, people that know how to close the deal. But a lot of times they have to see what you did first. So I have to do smaller movies first because they don't see anything that I've done, then they're skeptical. That's just the way business
Wow.
people are. So no, you're not going to corporations. You're going to people who already finance films.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
again, they want to finance films that they feel totally comfortable with. And we haven't found a financer that feels totally comfortable with Fly Girl yet, the way I want to do it. Even talking about the time that you put in a movie. A lot of movies, they want to make 90 minutes now. Fly
Yeah.
Girl was not a 90-minute movie, man. You can't do the information you have to do in
It's
90
gonna be
minutes. It's going to
minutes.
be over 2 hours. And then
Yeah.
they argue about that. Well, it don't have to be 2 hours. Yes, it does, because if you want to tell that story correctly, you have to have the time to tell it.
That's
Right?
right.
And that's where they end up messing you up. You do a 90-minute movie and you cut out half the damn book.
That's
And then
right.
people are like, what are
That's
you
right.
doing?
Yeah.
So you can't do that. And think about it. When you got, right now, they got a movie out called Dune #2. It's 2 hours and 47 minutes, man, because they know they needed it. Now, they probably didn't need that much time, but it ain't going to be no 90-minute movie. It ain't gonna be a 90-minute. And so you got to understand with the financial people, this is not a 90-minute movie, dude. You got to understand that. And that's where the battles happen, where they don't care about how many minutes. They just looking at their money. But you can't do art that way. The art has to be good first. I can't just throw out a book. It got to be good. And that's where you have the struggles with the economic people. They don't understand that you got to be good first. Then it makes the money.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, they don't understand, man. Like you said, they don't even read your material.
Right.
They don't. See, so they don't even know what angle you coming from. But
Right.
they ask other people. You know,
Right.
it's like they ask the viewers out there. Well, what you think about this? What you think about when they can pick it up and read the
Right.
stuff?
Right.
You know?
Right. They don't have time to read. They business people. Look, you need our money, right? And that's how they look at it. They look like they have the power tool over you. So that's what I'm working on now, to get my own capital and negotiate with people that understand you. I got a negotiation tonight with a football player. You know, the football player is getting plenty of money, but he still has to say yes. And this is what happens. He might want to say yes, but then he has money people behind him. Hey, man, you can't do that. That's not a good deal. So now you can't just convince him. You got to convince like 5 people. And all it takes is one of them to say, I really don't. So now you got 1 out of 5 that kills the deal. And that's how hard it is to get money. Just one person says no, and that person kills the whole deal. So that's how hard it is to get money for movies.
Wow. Wow. It's definitely nowadays, it's like you got to just do it on your own. You got to be independent, man. You can't ask somebody for nothing. Because they send you around the corner and back and all this type of stuff. You just want to get frustrated and do it yourself sometimes, man.
But here's the deal, though. When you say you got to do it yourself, you can't do everything yourself. I'm not going to be holding cameras, holding the light, holding the mic. You got to have other people involved. And then the actors. I can't play every role. I'm not, so now you got to have all them people who are in step with what you're doing. And that takes a lot of negotiations, a lot of time, a lot of people. And that's the difference. In the book world, it's just me and the computer, right? But when you do movies,
finances.
You do movies, you got like 40 people on the set. And then we talking about the 80s. The 80s had people out everywhere. So now the movies are like, we don't need 100 people. Yes, we do. If you're going to have a block party in Philadelphia, it ain't going to be 20 people there. It's going to be 200-300. So now I got to do all them extras. And then the finance people, why you got to have all these extras? Dude, I'm trying to make it look like the 80s. And we didn't have 10 people at a block party. When the block party is hot, you're going to have 400 people there. And so they have to understand that, so that's the part that they don't get. You have to make it look authentic. And when it happens, you get more excited as a viewer. You talk about it more. You might watch it 4 times. You bring people in. That's how you make the money. You got to excite the audience that's watching it. And so we still battling, making that battle. But that's the control issue that I end up writing this book about, because we all have it. And the more you want to do things, the more you're going to have a control issue, because you're going to come up against opposition, against money and other people's ideas and whatever it is that you're trying to figure out how to negotiate so you can make it happen.
So if you're a book author, if you put it on a scale from 1 to 10, how successful do you think it will be for Arthur to make it? Or do you have to branch off and do other things to bring all the capital together? Like, just being an author, is it good?
Well, again, Terry McMillan, let's look at Terry McMillan. At that time, when Terry came out with her 3rd book, Waiting to Exhale, right, Oprah Winfrey had a very popular television show. And Oprah Winfrey invite, Terry McMillan on her show. Yeah. So at that time, Oprah was telling everybody, buy the book. And they listened to Oprah. So when they listened to Oprah, they all bought that book. Now Hollywood like, whoa, she sold X a million copies. Now Terry has power, because the numbers make them say, we're going to do this movie. And then the right people get involved. So you have to have those numbers, but you can't get those numbers without having influencers who can influence the other people to buy. I didn't have Oprah Winfrey on my side, so I'm doing it from the muscle, from the roots, from the ground up. And so I didn't get the kind of numbers that Terry got. And so what happens now, the financial people say, well, how come you didn't get Terry's numbers? I wasn't on Oprah's show. I didn't cross over to white America. I couldn't do that, right? But my book is still a strong book with black people. So, but they're looking at it like, yeah, but we want the white money. You know what I mean? So you got all them kind of different negotiations that happen. But as a book writer, you can't really control who picks up your book, who puts you on an interview. You can try to get these interviews, but hell, man, Oprah don't interview every book writer. So if you get on her show, you can consider yourself lucky. But
That's
there's nothing you can do to control. Oh, and people used to say that all the time. Get on Oprah's show. And I would make this joke. Yeah, I'm going to call Oprah up right now and tell her to have me on next week. I don't know Oprah like that. I can't just call her show. You know what I mean? But people had this idea, just jump on Oprah's show. It ain't that easy. She got to invite you on.
That's
you know, so, and a whole lot of book authors have not been invited on. She's not going to bring every black book author on the show just because you black and you got a book. It don't work that way. And so, yeah, it's very hard to push your book. You got to figure out ways to hustle it and make it work. And then it has to be a good book. Fly Girl sold a lot of books through word of mouth. But if I had marketing like Terry did, if I had the Oprah Winfrey show, we could have sold 3-4 million books instead of 1 million. And that makes a difference when the Hollywood people start talking about that money. If you sell 4 million books, like for instance, Steve Harvey, you know, Act Like a Woman, Think Like a Man. He sold all them copies. He got 2 movies out of that. But I can't get on Oprah's show like he did. I don't have a radio program. And then he was on Tyra Banks' show too when she had her show. Yeah. So I haven't been on any of them shows. Now people say, well, how come you can't get on the show? Steve Harvey had juice that I didn't have. You already knew Steve Harvey. So he can negotiate them deals where maybe I can't. But now I got to work on trying to see if I can get those type of situations so I can be as big as they are. But those are all the elements that create the different numbers for different authors that you can't control. That's why I wrote that book. I got no control over who invites me on the show and who doesn't.
That's right. Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. You're right. Yeah. And also, you have a body of work. Everyone knows that, you know, in urban fiction. Can we go back to the Phillis Wheatley Literary Award?
Well, right now, it's not all urban fiction now. I created urban fiction, but I got a lot of books. I got a book called A Do Right Man, Sweet St. Louis, Single Mom. Those books, they're in urban settings, but you wouldn't really call them urban fiction. They would be more like relationship, family books, you know what I mean, culture books. Then I got a whole lot of, you know, philosophical books. You know, Just Say No was a book that Leslie is an urban book out of New Orleans. It's a black horror story. Then I wrote a children's book. I wrote some international stuff with Welcome to Dubai. I wrote a young adults book with I think it's called The Sneaker Kings, when kids were trading sneakers and buying all these different sneakers and trading them. So I've done a lot of books because I'm a journalist. I write everything. And so sometimes you can get pigeonholed, and that happens too, where, you know, the financial people, well, Omar's only good for urban books. That's not the case. Control is not an urban book. It's a psychological thriller. You know what I mean? So I can write all kinds of stuff, and that's what I'm getting into now, writing more international books, because I've already done the urban books. I've done all that. You know, I'm not going to keep writing that over and over and over again. I got other things I want to do. And so sometimes you can get pigeonholed in this stuff, but I'm way more than an urban writer. I've written a lot of stuff. If you look up my name, Omar Tyree, you will see all the types of books that I've written, and they're not all urban books, but they do all deal with black people. They definitely deal with black people.
That's right. Yeah, you have a lot of books. I mean, it's no doubt about that at all.
Yeah.
You wrote plenty of books, not just urban books. I mean, you have a lot. Like you said, family, you got relationships, you got a lot of.
Right. Well, and then I've written books for other people. I'm writing a book right now called Saving Black Lives. 2 doctors out of Philadelphia went to my Central High School. They came out of Temple. They went to medical school at Penn State in Hershey, Pennsylvania. And it's Elena and Delana from Strawberry Mansion in North Philly. I'm writing that book right now. I also wrote the mayor of Marion Barry from D.C. I wrote his book. So I can write other people's books too. I don't do that a lot because you got to pay me to do that. And a lot of times people don't have the money to afford an author to write a whole, because it's a lot of time and tenacity to write a book. It's not just, I'm just going to write it in a couple of weeks and it's easy. And then you have to have a book that's already paid for. You know, the Marion Barry and doctors, they have capital to pay for it because it is a professional service. I'm not doing it for free. You know, it's time and effort when you're putting books together. And so, you know, a whole lot of times I'm writing a lot of books that may not be an idea that you may be interested in, but it'd be an idea that somebody else wanted to pay for that I could do. And so I'm able to write a lot of books as a journalist. You know, you got the skills to interview people and sit down with them. Some writers don't have them skills. I got all of them.
Wow. You know what I find amazing when I'm sitting here looking at the Diary of a Freshman.
Yeah. That was my first piece. Yeah, go ahead.
Your first piece, right?
Yeah, that was at University of Pittsburgh. and they found out I was a good writer in my freshman year, and they asked me to do, you know, like a constant writer. Now, when you use that word diary, that's what girls typically use. But I'm like, that's what it is. If you're doing it on a weekly basis, reporting, that's what it is. So I said, all right, diary of a freshman. And I was a freshman, so I wanted to say that, like, I'm a young dude that's printing stuff that seniors are reading, that juniors are reading, that sophomores are reading. And then they start coming to me asking for help on their work. I'm a freshman, and they coming to me asking me for help. So at that point, you like, yo, dude, you know you extra. It's just like football and basketball. If you can start as a freshman, you already know what it is. And so I knew at a young age that I had the skills of storytelling, coming up out of Philadelphia in the bottom of West Philly with aunts and uncles and cousins that were older than me. As I tell people all the time, my father was the oldest of 4, my mother was the oldest of 8. And so what happens, I become the chief of the family, where I'm the oldest of the next generation, and that placed me right in the middle of all the adults. So I've always been around adults that have had a lot of stuff that they had going on that I wasn't supposed to see at a young age. So I was very mature, and that's where all them stories come from. I saw more than what I was supposed to see at a young age, and I understood it, and I understood how to talk about it and make it make sense for other people. And that's what you're really doing as a storyteller. Comedians do it all the time. They take funny allegories and stories and turn it into something that's funny for us because they know how to make it make sense. And I do the same thing with regular stories, whether it's urban, whether it's psychological thrillers, whether it's a children's book, just in any city. I can go to any city and do that. So I just didn't write about Philadelphia. I wrote about Chicago. I wrote about New York. I wrote about Atlanta. I wrote about Dubai. I wrote about LA. You know what I'm saying? I'm writing about a whole lot of different areas. I go to the area, I study it. I ask the people how they talk. I listen to how they talk, and then I write the book. And they like, man, it's like you live here. I wrote about St. Louis. I wrote about New Orleans. And so you got to do your research and know the people. And so now I know all of those areas because I visited those areas. I did research in those areas, and I wrote books on those areas. And so writing and reading books, it gives you a huge net of information that you can use for the rest of your life. And that's what reading does for you. Reading is a good thing. I met a couple brothers from jail last night that had to teach themselves how to read. And then once they understood that, they opened themselves up to a lot more information that allowed them to come out of prison and stay out of prison, because now they know how to make money in different ways, and they know how to keep their mind right to stop getting tempted by things that are going to put them in bad situations. And I just met them brothers last night, and they talked about how important it was to start reading, and they read my books in prison. So you got a lot of impact when you write.
I'm sorry, what prison were you
I don't know. I didn't get into that. You know, prison is prison. So they just was bragging about it. I didn't get into. Was it great if it was? You know, I don't even care. The main thing was they learned how to read in prison and understood how important it was to do that. And that was the key. It wasn't about what prison they were in. We can all talk about Sing Sing and all this, whatever it is. You don't want to be in there.
I hear that, man. No, because I know you was in Philly. I didn't know which one it was on State Road. I don't know.
No, I wasn't at the prison. They were out of prison. They were just talking about prison.
Yeah, okay, y'all, you were just talking to them. Okay.
Yeah. They just happened to be from prison. One brother just got out 6 months ago, and he wrote his own books and stuff like. So he was really excited to meet me, and then we shared numbers and all that. Then I found out that his family from Charlotte, North Carolina, where I'm living now. And then he said, I'm going to introduce you to my brother. We got people down. So I was like, wow, we both in Philly, and we got ties to Charlotte, because I'm going back to Charlotte tonight. And now I'm going to meet up with his brother and stuff. But again, that happened through his excitement from reading. But it ain't about what prison he went to. It's how he reformed his life as a reader, a thinker, and now a writer. And he was inspired by me, and he was excited to meet me last night. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I thought I heard you say you actually went to a prison and talked to each brother. That's what I thought you said.
No. Prison Brothers was with it at a restaurant I was at. They walked in. And I was with a brother, Ron Walsh, who's like a fashion designer in Philly that knows a lot of people. He's from North Philly. And when they walked in, he was doing like events and stuff in the prison system. So they immediately noticed him. And then they saw me with him. And they was like, wait a minute. The boy face looked familiar. What's your name? And then I said, Omar Tyree. Oh, it's the book writer. And it was just like a big old love affair in there. We talking about books and the whole nine and getting yourself right and all that. So I didn't go into prison. I've been in prisons before, but you know, Ron Walsh was in the regular prison program where he was in there on the regular. So he know a lot more of them guys than I do.
Yeah. You know, let's go back. You mentioned your family, right?
Yeah.
And I know you have a big family. Are you the only one that became an author, a writer?
I had a great uncle who was a newspaper journalist. So I do have a newspaper. His name was Lacey Tyree on my father's side. Other than that, I had an uncle, Andre McLaurin, who was a natural storyteller. But he wasn't a writer. He was a verbal storyteller, where he would tell stories about everything. We used to walk up Lancaster Avenue to go to the movies from the bottom. 52nd Street had the Capitol Theater. So we walk up Lancaster, and I had two uncles. Andre was the older uncle, and Monte was the younger uncle. And Monte would just pick out people. Hey, Mac, Andre, look at this girl with all the hair. And then my uncle Andre would look at her. Yeah, she from the werewolf family. At night, they turn into werewolves. She got all this extra hair. And then my uncle Mac would look at somebody else like, hey, Andre, look at this dude with the big feet over here. And then Andre would look at that dude. Yeah, he from the Jesus Walk the Water clan. They can walk over water with the big feet. And so Andre, he was a natural storyteller verbally. He wasn't doing it in print. I went to college and they asked me to write, and then it came out in print, but I could do it verbally as well, but I grew up around that. So you got your storyteller. If you a storyteller, you pick up on it. I also was a mimic. Well, mimics do, just like comedians, you can mimic voices. When you mimic voices, you're studying exactly what they say and how they say it. And so those are all storytellers. I did all that. I can still do it now. And so that's a part of how you become a storyteller. So I had elements of it in the family, but I was the one that took it to the next level.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's dope, man. That's dope. Yup. And you also produced and published Food for Thought. I love when you talk about this story, man. Can you take us back to that?
Yeah, that was at Howard University. I was working for a newspaper as a young journalist, and I always would have comments at the end of the article. You know, I have my own little opinions. Now, they're not going to publish that, but I'm just writing my own little opinions about how I felt about the article. And so my editor, he was like, Omar, you keep having these opinions. Won't you set up a column or something at Howard? And I was like, yo, that's a good idea. And so I took a picture and then came up with the idea of Food for Thought, just like I came up with Diary of a Freshman. And I took it to the editor at the newspaper at the school, and he was like, I like this idea. And my first article was on Clarence Thomas being a Supreme Court justice. And we thought he was a sellout. He was a crossover, you know. So I wrote the stuff. He shouldn't be representing us. And this was back in 1991. And when I published that article, it was a hit, man. Everybody read it and loved it. And so I did that for 13 weeks in a row with my own column in the paper. And that's just feeding more confidence to what I was doing, dude. I was doing it bright and early, hustling, and my name was already there. So a lot of people, I didn't just jump up overnight, dude. I've been doing this for a minute.
But see, when did you realize you wanted to be a writer?
Well, in college at Pittsburgh, once I was good at it, when I did the Diary of a Freshman and people were asking me for writing advice and they're older than me, at that point I said, now, either you can use it or lose it. And I started talking about coulda, shoulda, woulda people. People that have talent and don't use it. I could have did that. I should have did that. I'm not one of them people, boo. So once I understood that I had the skills, what you gonna do with it? And I used it. That's all it is. You use what you got. So once I knew I had it, what you gonna do with it? I used it. So it's not no magic wand or nothing like that. Once you know you good at something, do it.
That's right.
That's what Nike says, right? Just do it. That's my favorite slogan in the world. Just do it and stop making excuses. So once I knew it, I could do it, Thomas. It's up to me to do it.
That's right. It's up to you to go ahead and finish it.
Yeah.
Finish it out.
It ain't rocket science. It's simple.
You know, it's amazing how you can write a book and people will gravitate just to reading it and the words of the characters you put in this book. What was the early experience where you learned that language had power?
Say that again, the last sentence.
What was your early experience where you learned that language had power?
You know, I was in the 11th grade at Central High School, and it's the first time I got an A in English in high school, because I was a math and science guy, because they didn't ask us to write our own stories. We always writing about Shakespeare or something you ain't want to read in the first place. So in that capacity, I'm not showing my skills because I don't have the control to write my own stories, right? But in 11th grade, we had a brother from South Carolina, Mr. Green, and he had this slow talking voice. I want you to write a story about your room. I want everybody to go home and write a story about your room and what goes on in your room. And we were like, a room? What the hell are we going to write about our room? You know, but then I went home because we had that assignment to do. I went home to my room. I've always been a football player. So I had a rack of trophies that were high above my bed. Then, we all had sneakers. So I had sneakers under the bed. Then I was in the comic book. So I had a closet full of comic books. But then at the bottom of the closet, you just throw the stuff in there that your mom told you to clean up, right? You just throw it in the closet. And so now I talked about my trophies being proud in the room, standing above the wall. And then I had my Jet magazine booties on the wall. I used to cut out Jet magazine. And then I had my sneakers under the bed, peeking out from the bed, thinking who's going to get worn to school today. And then I had my comic book stacked proudly in the closet. And then I had the chaos of suffocating garbage or whatever at the bottom. And what I did is personify all these things in my room like they were people, right? And then I wrote it creatively. I still had a bunch of grammar mistakes and spelling mistakes, but it was so creative that I got an A. He gave me the lowest A, and 90 is the lowest A you can get.
But you got it. You got an
A. Professor Green wanted to give me the A because he said this was very creative, what you did with the room, personifying all the objects. And then my other, the other students in the class were like, well, what you write, man? What you do? So they was curious to see it. And at that point, I said, yo, I got it. But that was the first time I got a chance to write what I want because it's my room. It ain't somebody else's room. So now I have that. Again, the word comes up again. He gave me control to write my own story. So when I did that now, dude, from that point on, I'm like, I know I can do it, but I was already a verbal storyteller. I was the one that would memorize movies, would memorize fights, would memorize, sports events. I was always talking about stories anyway. That was the first time I put it on paper where I controlled it. So it was just a matter of time of getting a chance to do it again. And I got a chance to do it again in college.
That was decent, man.
Yeah.
I think that was awesome for you to do that and explain room like that. And made it like people actually visualize. I put that together like that, and it was just something in the room, sitting inside the room. Wow.
Yeah. Man. But that came from me. Everybody else had the same assignment. I don't know what they wrote about their rooms. Mine became the one that was extra. And Professor Green from the South, Omar, I don't know how you came up with this idea, but it was pretty good. So I gave you an A on it. And if you could do more of this, maybe you can get more A's. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, if you give me more articles where I can write what I want to write, I will get more A's. But I ain't interested in Shakespeare and some of the other stuff we're reading. And so that's where, when you gave me that power, then you can see what I can do.
That's right. Yeah. See, you threw it outside the box. Forget the Shakespeare, the norm.
That's what creativity is. And that's what I want now. If I can get the financial people to understand that, trust Omar. He's been doing this for years. Trust him. Let him do his movie with the money he needs and then market it when he's done. But they got to trust you. So I got to develop that trust with the money people.
Wow. Out of all the endeavors you're doing now, you're going to these meetings, you're trying to get more deals, filming. How do you find time to write?
Well, you got a whole lot of time in the day, man. Like today I'm going to do meetings. Tomorrow I'm back home again. So back home I'll be writing again. So you got a whole lot of time in the day. I don't have a job, brother. I have not had a job since 18? Really, I had like little short jobs when you were in college. Then I came out of school. I had a job for about a half a year before I started my own business. And so, I've been doing, you got a whole lot of time if you ain't working for somebody else, dude. I got all time in the day. So, I get my stuff done. Then if I don't have a meeting, I got all day. I'm writing all day if I want to. I ain't got to check in 9 to 5. And so it's always been, what are you trying to find to write? People ask me that when they got 9 to 5 jobs, husbands and kids and all that. I got, the family and all that too. But I'm home all day long. I send my kids to school. The wife goes to work. And now you there writing. So I never had a job. That is my job as a writer. So it's a beautiful thing to be.
Wow. Wonderful. Wonderful, man.
Yeah.
And what is the most difficult part of writing a book? And I ask that because a lot of people...
The writing part is the marketing. When you finish that thing, putting it on the market, that's the hard part. Yeah, because you don't get a whole lot of, love as writers. Rappers, dancers, actors, they get more love than you get. So even with social media, I can't get the followers that other people can get because you're too logical, you're not crazy, and it's like, okay, he's just a writer. So we don't get a lot of the publicity. The radio guys don't want to interview you, television. So it's hard getting the marketing that you need as a writer. So you have to be successful with the readers and keep pushing it from that direction. But when you make movies, movies make you more popular too. So as soon as I can get those movies popping, more people will know me that didn't read the book. I didn't read one Harry Potter book. There's a whole lot of people that didn't read any Marvel comic books, but they go to the movies so they know Stan Lee, right? They know who he is now when they never read a comic book. And so movies will help me to become more popular. And when you become more popular, you can engage more people. And so that's a problem, again, with being an intellectual book writer. You don't gauge enough people because you're not looked at as being as sexy as a rapper, as sexy as an athlete, as sexy as a politician. And so they get more publicity than we get.
Well, that's absolutely true. It is.
Yeah.
It's a shame because there's a lot of good book authors and writers out here that's being overlooked.
Yeah.
And it's like you got to be in a certain group to be able to really make. And that group is, you have to do some things that you don't want to do. And some people are not going that route.
Yeah.
You know, it's like selling your soul almost. You got to almost get with a certain group to get out there. You know.
Well, they got a movie out right now that they interviewed me on called American Fiction, where they were talking about a brother trying to be extra hardcore to sell urban books and make, and that really, it doesn't really work because when you're writing a book for black people, they have to like the book first. So that whole crossover thing to white people. So I was telling them, I said, that don't really work. You're not crossing over to white people unless you got your own people first, unless you get lucky where you writing that old school racial stuff that white people like to read all the time. But if you writing about black people, it better attract black people first. You can't cross over to white thinking you're going, make sales. It don't work that way. And so when I was interviewed about the movie American Fiction, I said it's fiction, it's a movie, they got the movie done, but that's not the actual factual of how we have to sell books as black writers.
That's right. It shouldn't have to go that way. Just be yourself and get your black audience first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you self-publish or go the traditional route, publishing?
Yes, I self-published my first 3 books, and then Fly Girl sold so many that, the big boys wanted to do a deal on it. And that's the same deal. Like, I couldn't get published when I first came out. I was too young. I was writing this new stuff. And it was like, what's a 22-year-old going to put in the book? What's a 23? So they couldn't, as he's too young. And I had to put it out myself. My audience responded to it. Now they're like, well, he's writing books, he's selling books, let's do a deal with him. So yeah, I had to bring out myself, just like Master P and the Cash Money Millionaires and them guys that started their own record companies, just like Spike Lee had to start his own film company, just like Will Packer had to start his own stuff, just like Tyler Perry had to start his own stuff, just like Kanye West had to convince guys to use his records. You got to get in there by having the initiative to start it, and then people say, hey, he knows what he's doing. And so now I got to do the same thing with film. I got to find some outside finances to create those first film projects so I can get the bigger money people to know that I know what I'm doing.
I hear a lot of people out there talking about how long it takes for them to do this and do that. Well, how long does it take for Omar Tyree to write a book?
2 to 4 months. And the next book I got to write in 2 months, so it's going to be a smaller book, but it doesn't make it less powerful. I got a book called Carnival that I'm going to be working on next about Trinidad and Tobago and about the gender issue. I got 2 married men that go down to Trinidad and Tobago during Carnival, and you already know they're going to get, we got some of the most beautiful women of color in the world down there in Trinidad and Tobago, brother. And you go down there in Carnival when they wearing all that stuff that they're wearing and dancing and partying, and you going to get in some trouble. So I wanted to deal with the gender issues and the clashing that we have between men and women right now with a lot of American energy where women, they really want to do their own thing now, which creates a bond for the men. And so now the men want to find women that still allow them to be men and women that still like men without all the conflictions that American women have. So that's going to be an interesting book because that's an international woman versus an American woman. And we all know the difference at this point. And them Trinidadian and Tobago women are bad. I'm talking about, you talking about Dominican women, you go down there bad. But we know that they got economic problems, right? So you go down there with some money and you in some good shape, so I'm going to write about that, but it ain't that simple. I always get complicated with the stuff I write, but that's the writing premise. That's the premise I'm starting with, but I'm going to make it way more complicated than that when we dealing with gender issues and where we at now in 2024 as we move into 2025 when the book comes out next summer. So I already got my next book lined up.
Wow, that's dope, man.
Yeah.
And what important advice would you give a first-time author?
Well, I tell the same thing. Writers write. We get a lot of writers talking about or want to be writers. I've been thinking about writing. I always wanted to write. I got these stories in my head. How do I start writing?
Yeah.
You got a computer, you got a pen, you got a hand, start writing. And no basketball player talking about, I've been dreaming about playing basketball thing. He goes to the court and plays. So if you want to be a writer, that's the first thing you got to write.
That's
Then
right.
you can improve what you're writing after you read it, you send it to other people. But if you don't write anything, nobody can help you to do anything.
That's right.
So if you want to be a writer, you got to start writing, right? And so I figured you got to be at least a high school student.
Yeah.
You know how to write. Now,
Yeah.
you may not know how to write well, but you got to start writing what you think that you have on your brain and then take it to somebody that can help you improve it, take classes for it and the whole nine. But if you want to be a writer, you got to write. And then the next thing I say is finish what you start, because you got a lot of people that start stuff and don't finish. So I tell them all the time, you're not a novel writer. Write a short story, write a poem. You can't run a mile if you can't run, a quarter first. A mile is 4 quarters. So you got to run the quarter first. So you got people talking about, I want to write a novel. I'm like, yo, dude, slow down. I didn't start off writing novels, right? You just talked about my food for thought. You talked about diary refreshment. I started writing small articles, small pieces. Then you keep advancing the longer pieces. I didn't start off writing no novels. I started off writing short stories, short little essays or whatever, short little commentaries, and then you build confidence and execution. Then you can start writing novels and bigger books. But you got to finish what you start with the small stuff first.
Man, I thank you, Omar Tyree. I really do. You took the time out. You're here now in Philly.
Yeah.
And this is our second or maybe third interview, man, because I love when you come on the show. I thank you for that. I really do. Omar Tyree, New York Times best-selling author. If you can just give any advice to those out there, that like to quit all the time, man. Like we just talked about. What good advice would you give them to continue on with their journey of success?
Well, you just said it. Continue on. Keep doing it. I mean, it's simple stuff, man. Like, don't quit. Keep doing. Right now, we talking about movies, right? My books have been out for 30 years. I still don't have a movie. Does it sound like I'm giving up on making movies? I'm still trying to negotiate until I'm dead. And so at the end of the day, if you want to do this, then do it. You never give up on what you want to do. So I'm going to be a little older when I make my movies now, but I'm still going to get it done. And how about, since I'm older now, how about I be more wiser about the content, more wiser about how I get down instead of being young. And, sometimes you can be young and greedy and do dumb stuff. Now I'm older where I had to earn it. I had to wait longer. So I'm going to appreciate it more. So I'm cool with it, man, but I don't quit. You cannot stop doing what you're doing if you want to do that. And so that's the advice I give them. Don't stop. Put it together and keep pushing for it.
That's right. There you go. There you have it. Omar Tyree, once again, a journalist, the poet, the author. We have Control, which will be hitting May 21st.
May 21st. Tuesday, May 21st. Drop date like the music used to come out. Tuesday, May 21st. You can pre-order now, at my website, hotlavaentertainment.com. That's my website. Or you can pre-order from Amazon if you get it from Amazon, Barnes & Noble. So you can get it early and don't have to wait until May 21st because they're going to start selling it early and send it to people. So you can do that as well.
So you can actually log on now and get it and pre-order it now?
You can actually go to my website, Hot Lava Entertainment. You can go follow my Instagram, only one Omar Tyree. Make sure you plug that to get more followers for that. And then I always plug my website. So you can go right to my website to order the book. And if you're a writer, I have this website called Substack, Substack. In fact, when you go to my Instagram page, you can see the Substack background. It's the yellow background behind my picture. That's Substack. If you want to write, I'm going to be giving advice for the next few years on Substack every month on writing and whatnot. So you want to join the Substack, and then that way you can get writing advice from me every month. Okay, but you got to go ahead and follow me on only one Omar Tyree on Instagram, and then go to my website, Hot Lava Entertainment, and you'll see more of the stuff that I'm doing, the movie stuff, the music stuff, videos. I shot a video out here. I had an album called The Philadelphians that I was working on a couple years ago that I'm actually looking at putting out this fall. So it's a lot of stuff at the Hot Lava Entertainment website where you can stay in touch with what I'm doing.
And real quick, did you ever get with PD Crack about a song you wanted to do?
Is a TV plot, as you said?
No. Did you ever get with the rapper PD Crack?
Oh, PD Crack. Yeah, I still got that Puerto Rican Dominican song, man. DRPR. But it's hard getting with some of them. When you got more capital, you can move into those positions. But yeah, I still got that because the Dominicans are in Philadelphia thick now. So I had this song where the Dominicans are battle rapping the Puerto Ricans, the DR, the PR, the DR, the beat. Trust me, Thomas, the beat is crazy with the Spanish. And just, again, I got ears for this dude, but again, it's like, we don't know you for music, so I got to show him. But yeah, if I can get PD Crack and a hot Dominican rapper from Philly, man, that beat is crazy, dude. They would lose their minds. And then you put it at a playground in North Philly where the Puerto Ricans on one side and Dominicans on, that's visual. And then they battling with the battle, and then the girls are dancing, and it'd be beautiful, man. DR, PR, DR, PR. They would be crazy. You know what I mean? But that's how I come up with visionary ideas that you got to get money for so you can see it.
Wow, that's dope. I can't wait to see that. I hope that happens, and I'm gonna keep reaching out to my man PD Crack. Shout out, so this thing can happen, man.
Yeah.
I thank you so much.
Thank you,
Omar Tyree, for coming on the A Vision Media broadcast once again. Listen, man, I hope we can do this again. I know this is the third time, but I would like to do this again.
So what I was saying is that make sure we keep sending people to the Instagram page. Only one Omar Tyree, Hot Live and Entertainment, and we just gonna keep working, man, to open up those doors that we got to open up with. But the more popular I become with interviews and people follow me and talking about, the more influence I have over the investors when it's finally time for them to say yes. So you actually help me to get the investors to say yes with the momentum that I have, that people that support me. So that's how it works.
Listen, man, I thank you, and I hope all the best for you, brother. And it will happen, you know.
All right, partner.
I thank you, man. Peace out. Enjoy our hometown, Philly.
All right. Okay. All right, partner. Later.